We got Disturbing. We did his video in a minute, so we just go ahead and get into it. How is y'all? Beautiful Wednesday. I hope y'all like missed the nightmare video. Then nigga just dropped 2 more extra videos. Like, damn. But yeah, man. We definitely got a lot of videos to get into. So let's go ahead and y'all gonna catch a late night reaction tonight. So y'all be on the lookout for one. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna post it by probably about 12. Nah, that's too early. By the time I post it, we're gonna be late. Y'all probably gonna get the next video I'm finna do after this video at 1 at night, like 1 after midnight. Let's go ahead and get into it though.
In 1973, in Falkhouse, Scotland, his childhood was marked by significant challenges, including bullying and social isolation. From an early age, Alan struggled to connect with his peers, finding himself literally friendless by the time he reached adolescence. This isolation, coupled with relentless bullying from his peers, contributed to a sense of alienation and disconnection from the world around him. As a social outcast, Alan became an easy target for torment and ridicule, further deepening the emotional scars of his former years. Alan turned to movies and video games as a coping mechanism, providing him an escape from the harsh realities of his daily life. Although he soon found an adoration and obsession for those who displayed power and violence, which included serial killers and Nazis. This dark obsession and adoration for those who had committed extreme acts of violence hinted at a troubled psychological state that would later manifest in violent tendencies. When Alan was around 14 years old, he committed a shocking act of violence. He attacked a fellow classmate named Brian Fell. Brian would later recall the shocking event, saying, "I had heard a week before he had a knife in school and was going about telling how he wanted to stab me, but I didn't believe he would. A week later, I saw him in the corridor outside the English room, and he asked me to go outside for a fight, but like kids usually do." It's at this point that Alan rushed Brian and stabbed him with a large blade. Brian recalled feeling a blow to his side and then narrowly escaping a thrust to his chest. Brian expressed a fear for his life during the incident.
Huh? Nigga stabbed this nigga at school?
And explained that at the time, Alan had an apparent pleasure for killing animals with his bare hands.
Damn.
Thankfully, Brian survived the attack, but was left with a 2-inch scar. Alan, on the other hand, expressed no remorse and spent 3 years in a young offenders institute as a result of the disturbing attack. After serving his time, Alan was released and he attended college. It's here in college where he became friends with someone who was also socially isolated, just like him, a 17-year-old named Thomas McKendrick. The two 17-year-olds were both considered to be outcasts, and they found solace in their similar social standings. They quickly formed a deep bond. United by their perceived social struggles, they became inseparable friends rather quickly. One night, Thomas suggested that the two watch a movie together, and he introduced Alan to the Queen of the Damned. Alan was entranced by the movie, and became especially captivated by the character Akasha, who was portrayed by the late R&B singer Aaliyah. I've never seen the movie, and never will, as apparently it's terrible, but it involves vampires and a number of killings taking place.
It is.
Anyway, I borrowed the movie and watched it obsessively, sometimes multiple times a day. In particular months, and I watched the movie hundreds of times. For Alan, the movie became more than just entertainment. His fixation with the movie...
Cause that movie was so long, cuz. I watch a good vampire like Dawn of the Dead and shit like that. I watch it, you know what I'm saying? I watch Dust. It's some shit like that. Y'all know what the fuck I'm talking about. Dawn of the Dead, Dust of the Dead, some shit like that.
Escalated into hallucinations, where at least according to him, he believed he could hear and see Akasha commanding him. In his distorted reality, Alan envisioned himself as the chosen one, destined to become a powerful vampire. Alan would later claim that as his obsession with the film deepened, so did his thirst for human blood. In The Queen of the Damned, Akasha holds the key to eternal life, and Alan was convinced that by following her orders, he would ascend to a position of power and adoration. The lines between fiction and reality became a blur. By the time that Alan reached 18, it became painfully clear to his parents that something was horribly wrong with the teenager. They frequently would hear him shouting,
So a motherfucker just stabbed the goddamn teen, stabbed a motherfucker at school and did 3 years. Y'all don't see nothing wrong with him until now? Okay. Oh, okay, buddy.
screaming and playing parts of the film repeatedly in his room. He also became more erratic and more violent. Attempting to understand his behavior, Alan's parents confronted him. He attempted to convince his parents of the existence of vampires, citing books and online sources, but this only worsened the situation when they didn't believe him. He explained to them that he wished to become a vampire, even going as far as bringing back animal organs and blood from a local butcher shop to consume. On one night, Alan hallucinated an invitation from Alea's character in the movie. He claimed that she promised him immortality and the power of a vampire.
Nigga,
But in
what?
return, he must prove his worthiness by killing someone. And now we arrive to the 11th of December 2002. Alan and his friend Thomas share another evening together, watching the movie Queen of the Damned. However, Thomas had grown tired of this movie and suggested that they do something else for once, but Alan refused. As the night progressed, Thomas began to mock the movie and questioned Alan's obsession. Alan would later claim that Thomas then made insulting sexual comments about Akasha. He found this to be unacceptable, so he viciously and mercilessly attacked Thomas. So viciously, in fact, that Thomas was killed in what would become one of Scotland's most gruesome murders. After killing Thomas, Alan then hid the body. Days passed by, of course, without any sign of Thomas. His sudden disappearance raised concerns among his parents, who eventually contacted the police to tell them that he was last seen at Alan's house. The police questioned Alan, and he admitted that the two did have a recent argument, but claimed ignorance about his best friend's whereabouts. A routine checkup at Alan's home yielded a bizarre discovery: bloodstains. But Alan explained it away as an accidental injury, leaving the police unconvinced, but with no substantial evidence. Days later, Alan encountered Thomas's mother in a supermarket and inquired about a product to remove bloodstains. Thomas's mother was of course alarmed by this peculiar question, so she reported it to the police. Detectives then returned to Alan's home, finding a shirt and pants stained with blood. Investigators then conducted a DNA test, and it confirmed that the blood belonged to Thomas. But just a day after the discovery of Thomas's bloody clothing, Alan overdosed. He came round by the time the DNA test had come back positive, and he was questioned about his involvement in the disappearance of Thomas. But Alan continued to deny any involvement. Despite his uncooperative stance, the investigation gained momentum when a search team stumbled upon a shallow grave near Alan's home. Inside the grave they found a body fitting Thomas's description. Tests were conducted on the body, and tragically, it was confirmed to be Thomas. Thomas had suffered over 40 stab wounds, coupled with extreme and severe head injuries. In fact, his head had been caved in. Alan was arrested and charged with a murder.
Over 40 times a head caved in about a lame ass movie, bro. It's his parents' fault. They should have got that boy help. Hell, he should have got help in them 3 years. Them 3 years, I wasn't do shit to him.
Of his best friend, one of the only friends he ever had. The discovery prompted the police to question the motive behind Thomas's brutal murder. With the overwhelming evidence, Alan confessed to the murder. In a story that shocked and disturbed the police, Alan revealed that he believed himself to be a vampire and had only achieved this status by killing Thomas. He claimed he was driven to do so by visions and visits from Akasha, their character from the movie. Alan's bizarre confession unnerved the police, who struggled to even comprehend the horror story that he had presented. What I'm about to tell you is from Alan's perspective. On the 11th of December 2002, Thomas came over to his house, and despite Thomas's reluctance, Alan insisted on watching the film he had grown so obsessed with. He claimed that as they were watching, Thomas began to mock the film and the character Akasha. He said that as Thomas mocked the movie, he could see Akasha standing in the room, saying nothing but looking displeased. Alan told the police, "It was the look on her face. She wasn't pleased. Then she turned her back on me. I thought it was because Thomas had insulted her, and I let him get away with it." So Alan said he decided not to let him get away with it, and tensions escalated. This led to Alan grabbing a knife and repeatedly stabbed Thomas in the face, shoulders, and neck. Despite the brutal attack, Thomas managed to escape temporarily, but Alan pursued him, armed with a hammer. Thomas attempted to seek refuge in another bedroom, but Alan caught him and viciously bashed his friend's skull multiple times with the hammer. The frenzied attack resulted in approximately 40 stab wounds, and Thomas's skull being shattered into several fragments. Alan claimed that his hallucination of Akasha was pleased with his kill, justifying the murder because Thomas had made fun of her. Alan then positioned Thomas's body and made an incision in his neck and collected some of the blood in a cup. After collecting a large amount,
I'm saying it's never that serious about a movie. Never that serious. They should have got him some help when that boy stabbed somebody at school. They should have been got. They should have been helping him them 3 years he was locked away.
Alan put the cup to his lips and consumed the blood. Now this next part left me feeling extremely uneasy. As I said before, Thomas's skull had been broken into several fragments. Alan took one of these fragments and placed it into his mouth. He then proceeded to crunch on it and swallowed the bone. Alan disposed of Thomas's body by placing him inside a wheelie bin and wheeling him into the woods. At the time, Alan felt no remorse, stating, "I knew I had to murder somebody. If you don't murder anybody, you can't become a vampire." The trial would begin in the following year. In court, Alan justified his actions by claiming he had been angry and was acting out. He confided in his aunt in the hospital, stating that he wanted to rebel against God. A psychiatrist by the name of Dr. Derek Chiswick diagnosed Alan as emotionally disturbed, but not mentally ill, suggesting that he may have exaggerated his obsession for a lighter sentence. The psychiatrist wasn't fully convinced that Alan was telling the truth, and believed that Alan merely just enjoyed violence, and sought to commit a gruesome crime. While he was in jail awaiting trial, Alan sent letters to himself, seemingly from fantasy characters, almost as if to appear mentally ill. Alan claimed that his alter ego, who was named Vamp, had committed the murder, and not him, and attempted to put forward a plea on the grounds of diminished responsibility, but this was rejected. The jury deliberated for an hour and a half, and found Alan to be guilty of murder. The judge sentenced Alan to a minimum term of 18 years, and called him an outright psychopath, evil, merciless, and dangerous. When Alan was asked if he wished he could undo the killing, he replied with a simple no. He said he was sorry for Thomas's family, but that otherwise he felt nothing. After the trial, Alan's family sold their home, and on the 15th of November 2004, Alan was discovered dead in his cell. It was found that he had taken his own life. Despite being a relatively lesser-known story, the case of Thomas McKendrick is considered to be one of the most gruesome cases in Scottish history.
Damn, that crazy for all cause a motherfucker you got a session of a fucking movie. That being said, give you a thought, like, and subscribe, see them up in that video, or disturb me. You did your thing with this like you always do. That being said, let's ride. Next, see y'all motherfuckers on the next video I'm finna do now.
Don't drop you low, the bill gon' let it blow. From your head down to your toe, don't wipe you low. The way little buddy got dead, you would think he had a cold. Gon' zip more, cause I can get you touched, no matter what city you in. From the east to the west, we walkin' and gun down. Big low, big P for real. I be in the trench late night, thinkin' with some killers that bang for P for real. Say free